So, first of all, I know how this sounds. Yes, I agreed to be in an open relationship. Yes, I even said it on stream. But before you come for me, let me explain. Because this isn't a story about embracing modern love. It's about catching a manipulative man with a god complex live in front of 12,000 viewers and making sure his poly journey ended with a Twitch ban and a hard crash into reality. I, 27F, am a variety streamer. I've been doing this for years, games, just chatting, occasional chaotic cooking. You know, standard Twitch chaos. My community's tight-knit, fun, and kinda protective of me. We laugh a lot, especially at my love life, which, well, was always a bit of a mess. That was until Alex, 29M, showed up. Alex was hot in a subtle, intelligent way. Sharp jawline, messy hair, those artsy glasses that make guys look like they overthink everything, which, spoiler, he did. We met during a collab stream on a mutual friend's channel, where he gave me crap for playing Stardew Valley inefficiently. Charming, right? Anyway, we hit it off. He wasn't a streamer, he was a photographer, or so he claimed. Moody, low-light portraits of strangers smoking, that kind of vibe. But he got the streaming world, and I liked that. After a few months, we were basically living together. He'd cook for me during subathons, bring me coffee during 8-hour grind streams, whisper encouraging nonsense like, "You're carrying this collab," or "Don't give them content for free." I was smitten. Like a fool. Then came the polyamory conversation that IT started subtly. A few offhand comments about how humans aren't wired for monogamy, or how we should challenge possessive love. At first, I laughed it off. I thought it was some TikTok podcast phase. But then, one night, post-stream, he sat me down. He looked serious. "I think we should open the relationship," he said, like it was no big deal. "I love you, but I also think we should explore other connections. Freely." Now, I'm not new to the concept. I know people who make it work, but with Alex, it didn't feel like honest vulnerability. It felt like convenience. Still, I didn't react. I just smiled, nodded slowly, and said the words that changed everything. "Okay, let's do it." He looked surprised. I could tell he wasn't expecting me to agree. But I wasn't agreeing that I was plotting because something was off, and I needed to know how deep the rabbit hole went. The second I said yes, Alex became weirdly excited. Not like nervous, but hopeful, excited, more like kid who got away with shoplifting, excited. He started talking fast. About how we should make rules, maybe even document our journey for others, something about being open and authentic as creators. The man was practically glowing with anticipation, which is when I decided, screw it. If he wants to play this game, I'm going to give him a platform he'll never forget. That night, after pretending to sleep, I stayed up and made a private folder. Operation Polyphony. Yes, I gave it a dumb code name.
Swimmy.
Inside, I started documenting everything, screenshots, screen recordings, voice memos. Anything that could help me figure out what he was really up to. And boy, did I find stuff. Turns out Alex's idea of ethical polyamory was not ethical. Within a week, I saw texts pop up on his iPad, which he never locked. Amateur move. He was already flirting with 3 different girls. Not talking, flirting. And not just that, he had already hooked up with one of them. Apparently, the conversation with me was just a formality. He'd been doing this for weeks. I didn't cry. I got mad. Then I got strategic. I messaged one of the girls, Sophie. She was younger, also a streamer, small following, and very sweet. I didn't come at her angrily. I told her the truth, that I was his current girlfriend, and he had told me we were just starting to open things up. She was horrified. She had no idea. He told her I was his ex, and that we were still friends but not together. Classic. Sophie agreed to help. Over the next 3 weeks, we plotted together. I collected receipts from all 3 girls. Sophie got him to admit things over text. The other 2, Emma and Liza, were less involved but still offered proof. The final piece was getting Alex to talk about it all on streamed. I told him we should do a poly Q&A for our viewers. People are curious, I said sweetly. We could normalize healthy polyamory and share our journey. He was giddy. God, I wish you could have seen his smug little smile when he agreed. He had no idea he was walking into his own funeral. We titled the stream, Opening Up, Our Polyamory Journey Red Heart, Q&A plus Real Talk, which, in retrospect, was an almost comical understatement considering what was about to unfold live in front of thousands. The promotional tweet I posted the day before was simple yet tantalizing, promising a candid conversation about love, vulnerability, and modern relationships, a promise I fully intended to keep, just not in the way my boyfriend anticipated. From the very beginning, I poured myself into curating a soft, cozy vibe to lull everyone, especially Alex, into a false sense of comfort. The stream overlay was designed to feel whimsical and romantic, all pink pastels and little floating hearts, giving off the aesthetic of a couple in sync, bravely navigating the unknown together. There was even an animated banner that looped at the bottom of the screen reading, "Ask us anything," encouraging our community to engage with what looked like a sweet and vulnerable peek into our evolving dynamic. Alex, oblivious to what I had in store, leaned all the way into the performance. He wore that charcoal gray sweater he always pulled out when he wanted to appear effortlessly intellectual, the one with the sleeves he liked to push up just enough to show his tattoo, and the watch he never wound. He styled his hair into that perfectly tousled mess, sipped tea from his Don't Settle mug, and took his place beside me like he was about to deliver a guest lecture on emotional liberation. We started the stream slowly, intentionally. I led with light-hearted icebreakers and soft, relationship-themed questions from chat. "When did you first talk about opening the relationship?" one viewer asked. Alex answered, smooth as silk, with a rehearsed anecdote about evolving past conventional definitions of love and how trust is the cornerstone of all forms of intimacy. I nodded along, even leaned into him a bit, watching the chat scroll with messages like, "This is so mature," and "Wish my ex could have handled things like this." I kept smiling, kept agreeing, even though my hands were sweating beneath the desk and my heart was racing. Behind the scenes, I had everything ready to go, an entire digital exposé hidden behind a source layer labeled BG Hearts. In reality, it wasn't a background file at all. It was a timed media playlist containing a sequence of damning screenshots, timestamped texts, cropped DMs, and one particularly incriminating video clip. All it would take was a single click to detonate the truth, but I needed the perfect moment. I wanted it to feel earned. I wanted the fall to be steep, about 30 minutes into the stream, when viewership was climbing and people were genuinely invested in our journey. I leaned toward him with a soft smile and asked the question that would trigger everything. "So, if you had to pick one thing that's most essential when entering a poly relationship, what would it be?" He didn't even hesitate. "Radical honesty," he said, smiling like a smug little guru. "No ego, no secrets. If you're not being honest, you're not being open. You're just cheating." That was the cue. I slowly turned to the screen, maintaining eye contact with the camera like a news anchor delivering a breaking story, and said evenly, "Let's explore what radical honesty really looks like." Then I clicked. The screen flickered for half a second, and in place of our floating hearts and soft Q&A overlay, the stream cut to a screenshot, an unedited iMessage conversation between Alex and a woman named Sophie. The texts weren't just flirtatious. They were explicit and timestamped a full week before he ever opened up the idea of polyamory with me. One of the messages from Sophie read, "Are you sure your girlfriend won't be upset?" To which Alex had replied with the now infamous line, "What girlfriend?" Smirking face for a brief moment. The silence was deafening.
Chafrose.
Then it exploded. Messages poured in, faster than my mods could possibly moderate. "Wait, what? Is this real?" "Bro, loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face. You played US." "Not Sophie LMAO." Alex blinked at the screen in confusion. "Is this, babe, what's going on?" he asked, his voice already cracking, his calm veneer beginning to slide. "Is this a bit?" I didn't respond. I just reached over to my stream deck and cued the next file. Another slide. This time it was a photo. Alex sitting shirtless on Sophie's bed, taking a mirror selfie with a caption that read, "She still thinks we're talking through boundaries. I'm just easing her into it." That's when he stood up abruptly. His chair screeched across the floor, and he went off camera in a panic, muttering something incoherent like, We need to stop the stream. And this is out of context. I watched as his hands hovered near the power strip, probably contemplating yanking the plug like a panicked teen caught sneaking out. Too late. I had a mobile hotspot backup. The stream wasn't going anywhere. He came back on screen, flustered and sweaty, pleading with his eyes now. Okay, listen. You're really going to do this here? This isn't the time or place to air private stuff. Let's talk off. I cut him off, turning calmly toward the camera, speaking now directly to the chat. Just so we're clear, I said, voice steady and slow. This isn't polyamory. This is manipulation. This isn't honesty. This is performance. This man came into my life, into my space, into this community, and weaponized open love to justify lying, cheating, and using people like disposable content. Chat was roaring now, fully turned. Expose him more. Oh my God, this is so satisfying. Kingdoms have fallen for less. Pop off queen face with steam from nose fire. And then came the final move. With a practice tap, I switched overlays one last time, this time revealing a side-by-side webcam frame. The second window popped up, and there she was, Sophie, live, tuned in from her setup, looking dead into the camera with that same eerie calm I'd worn at the beginning of the stream. Alex audibly gasped. "Hi," Sophie said, her voice calm but unmistakably firm. "I just want to make it clear to everyone watching that I had no idea he was still in a relationship. He told me they were done. He told me he was single and healing. And he told me, repeatedly, that he wanted something real." I sat back, watching it unfold, like a conductor stepping away from the podium to let the orchestra finish the final crescendo. Alex never came back on screen after that. Alex didn't come back on camera for the rest of the stream. The second Sophie's face appeared in that secondary webcam frame, confident, calm, and unapologetically present. It was like all the air got sucked out of the room. The juxtaposition was perfect. Me in the center of my own channel, composed and focused. Sophie on the side like a digital witness testifying live, and the little box where Alex had been just moments earlier now empty, an eerie reminder of the mess he'd left behind. You could hear him off-screen fumbling with something, maybe trying to unplug a cable, maybe just pacing in panic circles. But I didn't give him the satisfaction of cutting the stream. My chat had exploded into a full-blown riot of emojis, donos, and comments that ranged from furious to stunned to wildly entertained. It was like witnessing a house of cards collapse in slow motion, and no one could look away. And Sophie? She was brilliant. She didn't yell. She didn't even sound angry. She simply laid out her truth like facts on a courtroom table. She explained, with heartbreaking clarity, how Alex had told her they were broken up, that I was just a roommate now, someone he still supported emotionally, but had moved on from romantically. She said he'd told her I was fine with him dating again, and that he'd even shown her parts of my stream to prove we were chill and open-minded. He weaponized my own content against me, and I could see it hit some of the viewers in real time. You could tell by the sudden shift in tone from the chat. Not just the jokes anymore, but genuine, thoughtful messages like, "Wait, he used her own stream to manipulate someone else. This isn't just cheating. This is calculated. Dude needs help. Seriously. This is why people think polyamory is toxic. Because of guys like this." As Sophie spoke, I watched the follower count tick higher and higher, 12,000, then 14,000, then 16,000. People were clipping, tweeting, live reacting. YouTubers were screen recording it midstream for their drama recap channels. My Discord server had to lock down because the influx of new people nearly crashed it. Mods were begging for backup. My phone was vibrating every few seconds from notifications, group chats, DMs, and even a couple newswire outlets that had caught wind of the drama and wanted quotes. Meanwhile, Alex was still in the apartment. I heard a loud bang from the hallway, probably the door to the bathroom slamming shut, and I couldn't help but smirk. He'd always been so composed, so performative, the guy who would pause mid-argument to fix his tone and make sure we're communicating effectively. And now? Now he was hiding in the bathroom while the entire internet watched his carefully curated image implode in 1080p. The stream went on for about 15 more minutes, most of it just me and Sophie talking, not just about what had happened, but about the why. We talked about how people like Alex use openness as a mask for dishonesty. How language like boundaries and fluidity can be twisted into tools of manipulation when someone refuses to be accountable. How trust isn't just about permission, it's about presence, about being honest when no one's watching, not just when the cameras are on. We made it clear that this wasn't a vendetta against polyamory or open relationships in general. We were both clear-eyed and careful to say it wasn't about the relationship style, but about the person abusing it to escape consequences. I thought I was part of something exciting and new, Sophie said near the end. But it turns out, I was just another plot point in someone else's ego trip. That line? That line went viral. It was clipped, subtitled, remixed, turned into a TikTok sound. The remix, where someone layered it over a Billie Eilish beat, got 3 million views in a day. When we finally ended the stream, after thanking the mods, redirecting hate away from the other women, and encouraging viewers not to weaponize polyamory itself, I leaned back in my chair and just breathed. That it was over. The lie was broken. The mask had cracked. And for once, I didn't feel hollow or embarrassed or small. I felt free. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind. My inbox was chaos. Mutuals I hadn't heard from in months were messaging me in disbelief. Streamer drama Twitter was in full spin cycle. One of my mods told me the clip of Alex's radical honesty quote followed immediately by the screenshots was number 6 on the Twitch Reddit homepage. Drama channels were dissecting the stream like forensic scientists, some siding with me completely, others predictably asking if I'd gone too far. But the overwhelming tone was the same. He had it coming. Alex, meanwhile, went dark. He locked down all his social media accounts within hours. Deleted his art page. Wiped his Instagram. I assume he thought if he disappeared fast enough, maybe the internet would move on. But, oh, honey, this isn't 2010. This is the internet with a vengeance. Once your name trends under hashtag #FakeWokePhotographer, you're toast. And then the ban started. First came a formal notice from Twitch. He wasn't banned just for what happened on stream, although the clip definitely tipped the scale, but multiple creators who had once collaborated with him came forward to share messages and behavior that aligned with the same manipulative patterns. DMs to underage mods. Gross power plays with small female streamers. It was a lot. Within a week, he was blacklisted from every collab server we'd ever shared. Discords removed him. He was quietly kicked from a virtual art collective he once bragged about. Even a mutual podcast he'd guest hosted for pulled down his episodes. Sophie got a wave of support too. Her follower count quadrupled in a matter of days. She used the momentum not just to grow, but to educate, hosting chats about manipulation in creative spaces, setting boundaries in parasocial environments, and how to spot coercive tactics dressed up as enlightenment. And me? I streamed again 2 days later. Same setup. Same overlay. Same chair, except this time, I changed the title to Q&A, How to Spot a Clown in a Radical Honesty Sweater Clown Face, and yeah, that one hit 22,000 viewers. It's been 3 months since the stream that tore apart not just a relationship, but the entire illusion I'd unknowingly been complicit in maintaining. 3 months since I watched a man unravel in real time. Watch the glossy persona he's so carefully constructed fracture under the weight of his own ego, deception, and the staggering audacity of thinking he could outsmart both love and the internet. And now, with the storm behind me and the dust long settled, I can say without a trace of hesitation that I do not regret a single frame of it. Not the exposure, not the fallout, not the chaos that followed. Because for the first time in a very long time, I feel like I am finally living in a space that is not built on compromise, on quiet swallowing of disrespect, or on the warped notion that love must always mean forgiveness, no matter how deep the betrayal. Alex tried to spin the story, of course, predictably, clumsily, and with the same faux intellectual detachment he used to charm people into thinking he was a misunderstood genius instead of just a manipulative man in a cable knit sweater. About a week after the stream, someone sent me the link to a blog post he'd published on Medium, written in a kind of abstract, hand-wringing prose that screams, "I'm the victim here." The post, titled something like, "When Radical Honesty Becomes Public Execution," attempted to reframe everything that had happened as an example of cancel culture run amok. painting himself as a well-intentioned man who had simply fumbled emotional growth in public and was now being burned at the stake for trying to love outside the system. It was almost poetic, if you ignored the part where he'd lied to multiple women, gaslit his own audience, and then tried to play martyr when the truth came out. His essay was shared maybe a few dozen times before it was ratioed into oblivion by comments like, "You weren't canceled, you were caught," and "Bro, you lied and got exposed." That's not culture, that's karma. He deleted the post 2 days later. Meanwhile, I was thriving in a way I hadn't anticipated and certainly hadn't aimed for. The viral nature of the stream meant my platform grew overnight, my follower count spiked, sponsorship offers started rolling in, and suddenly I found myself with opportunities that had once felt out of reach. But more than the metrics, what stayed with me were the messages. Hundreds, literally hundreds, of people from all walks of life reached out privately. Some were fellow creators, some were just viewers, but all of them had one thing in common. They had, at some point in their lives, been manipulated by someone like Alex. They had said yes to things they weren't ready for, or tolerated deception disguised as freedom, or been made to feel small and unreasonable for asking for the bare minimum: truth, respect, consideration. And for them, seeing the lie dismantled so publicly wasn't just cathartic, it was healing. They thanked me, not for the spectacle, but for showing them that you can walk away from the performance. That you don't have to keep smiling through the hurt just to appear evolved. As for Sophie, she and I remain close, not in a trauma-bonded way, but in a kind of post-apocalyptic sisterhood forged through fire. We've done several collaborative streams since then, sometimes joking about how our first collab was unintentionally iconic. She's doing great, building her channel, speaking on panels, mentoring younger creators who are navigating the minefield of parasocial dynamics and power imbalances in digital spaces. The internet tried to reduce her to a side character in my story, but she refused to stay in that box. And I love that for her. For both of us, I still get questions sometimes. People ask if I ever heard from Alex again, if he ever apologized, or tried to explain himself once the rage subsided. And the answer is yes, he tried. A couple weeks after the Twitch ban, he sent a long, rambling email to my business address, filled with half-baked self-reflection and vague declarations about how he was in therapy now and doing the work. He said he'd been deeply hurt by how things played out publicly, and that he hoped someday we could talk, not to rekindle anything, but to find closure. I didn't respond. I didn't even read the entire thing. Because here's the truth he still hasn't grasped. Closure is not a conversation. It's not something you get by reopening old wounds or dragging the people you've hurt back into your mess so you can feel better about yourself. Closure is something you earn, alone, in the quiet, in the space where no one is clapping or booing. And I've already found mine. I found it not in his apology, but in the silence after the stream ended. In the stillness of my apartment when I turned off the camera, shut down the overlays, and took a long, grounding breath. I found it in the decision not to scream, not to beg, not to demand remorse, but simply to reveal the truth and let the consequences speak for themselves. That I found it in the way I took back my platform. In the way I let my audience see all of me, not just the curated, cheerful version, but the woman who had been deceived, disrespected, and then chose to rise anyway. Not for revenge, but for liberation. And now, months later, I don't care where Alex is. I don't care what he's doing, or who he's trying to impress, or whether he's still telling women he's emotionally complex. Because I am done starring in his story. And more importantly, I am done letting anyone else narrate mine. In the end, this wasn't a story about a messy breakup, or even about one man's downfall. It was about reclamation. About choosing self-respect over silence. About refusing to be polite in the face of manipulation. And yes, it was about pressing go live not to create content, but to reclaim my own narrative that I didn't ruin his life. I didn't destroy his career. I simply stopped lying for him. And once I did, the truth did the rest.